Hey guys, this is Angela McHouston, and today I want to talk to you about phrasing. Not just phrasing, but how to get built-in phrasing. So what I want you to think about when I say built-in phrasing, it's just like a radio is built into your car. Your phrasing should become natural and easy. And then it doesn't matter what instrument you play, this will work for anything. But the first step to do that is you have to look at the shape of the line. So if you have a descending line, I want you to crescendo down. If you have an ascending line, I want you to decrescendo up. It's usually the exact opposite of what you think you need to do. It feels natural to get louder as you go up and softer as you go down. But those are the tendencies of at least the flute anyway. It's harder to play in the low register, easier to play in the upper register. We need to do the exact opposite. So what I want you to think about, excuse me, what I want you to think about is a roller coaster. As a roller coaster gets closer to earth, it gets louder, right? And as it goes back up, it gets softer. So this will work for any kind of ascending, descending line. And the way you practice it is literally every little bit you can do. So it doesn't matter how long it is, it will still work. The piece of music that I was working on with a student today is the Brune Romance. And this passage came up, and the student was having trouble, not just phrasing, but really getting to these high notes. So we're going to work on this little section right here, 3 from the end. This part right here. But if you notice at the beginning, he was also having trouble hitting that A. So he was approaching it, and this wasn't coming out. And this is what we're going to work on here. So we've got this line that's decrescendoing. I'm sorry, this line that is crescendoing and this line that is decrescendoing, okay? So if you play it the way that you probably want to play it, you're going to get soft. That's naturally what you want to do. What I want you to do is the opposite. You're going to crescendo down. So in this case, you're starting on a D above the staff. The D at the bottom of the staff is the lowest note, and that should be your loudest note. So when you put it together, see? So you can apply this to any amount of music. So for example, this is the Kohler 22 studies. And I'm going to be showing you the first, I use this for an audition once, and you can see my notes are ridiculous. So this is the first one in C, but what I want you to notice, this would be, we're going to take a look at every little thing here. This is an ascending line, so I'm getting softer, even though it says here, any place it doesn't, I'm going to get louder. I'm going to get softer even though it says, and we're going to go down and up. So crescendo, decrescendo. So even if I take this really, in the very beginning, we've got okay, so now we have these descending lines. Each one of them I'm going to crescendo down. So the point being, I played some wrong notes in there, that's fine. The point being, crescendo down, decrescendo up. And we're going to start putting this in smaller parts. So say I've got 4 notes, only 4 notes. Find a good example of this. So right here, dee da da dee dee. I'm not worried about this note. This is my descending line. I've got 3 notes and then it goes up. The way you make this built in is that you over exaggerate and you do literally every little bit of a descending line. If it's 2 notes, if it's 3 notes, you over exaggerate that crescendo. So with what I just showed you, find it again. Oh, I lost it. Where'd it go? Oh, here it is. Okay. See, I'm taking it out of context. You're going to crescendo down, and the lowest note, I want you to exaggerate it. So when you put it into context, see, it's built in. You don't even notice that you're doing it. All you notice is that the music has motion, and that's what we're going for. So here's another section right here. So we've got descending, 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 descending. And yes, we've got this. You can do this bit of phrasing that I'm telling you to do within this phrasing. So how you practice it again is we're gonna really exaggerate this, okay? So let me find it again, here we go. So that's an awful lot. Let's take it a little bit at a time, okay? Here's the first part. We've got okay? So what you're doing, you're also doing something where you set up your high notes. So if you watch my video on how to play easy high notes on the flute, this is where it comes into. It's not just about moving your mouth. It's also about setting up your high note. So what you have to do is you have to put more air on the bottom note that precedes the high note. That way all the air you're going to need will be there ready for you when it's time to play the high note. If you wait until it's time to play the high note, it's too late. You have to set up that air on the note before. So a lot of times that's a lower note, which works great. So if you push more air than you think you need, change your fingers and that high note will be out. And we're gonna go back to the grand in a second and show you that. So we go, I've got a D to a B. Hear how I almost cracked the D into the next octave? That's what you want. So to get those higher notes, you want to push enough air so that you get, so right until the note wants to crack, and right before the note cracks, you change your fingers, not before. And you have to get really comfortable with taking this out of time. You can put it back, but this is all about exaggerating. You have to push more air, and this is a side note. I don't know why this is, but flute players, y'all don't want to blow. We play a wind instrument, guys. We got to blow, right? So the other thing is that you got to use your air. We don't want to blow, and we want to fight it. We want to fight our air. No. We got to use it. It's like wind in a sail, right? On a sailboat, sailors harness the power of the wind. They don't try to control it. Same like with water. We're not trying to harness water. You tried to squeeze water coming out of a faucet? It doesn't work real well. No, but you can harness it. You can divert it. You can use it. And that's what we're trying to do with our air. So over exaggerate it. And I don't mean just get louder. I mean really blow, okay? This should take you outside of your comfort zone. And don't worry about it being out of tune. You're probably gonna get sharp. That's fine for now. That's not what we're working on. Later on, when you're exaggerating your notes and you're using your air and you're doing this, as I mentioned, then you can work at that point on intonation, but that's not what we're doing right now. So if we got D to D, boom, came right out. We go back to the grand. It goes up to an A. We've got a D to an A right here. Okay, so how that works, and the guy had to tongue it, is what he ended up doing, and it didn't even come out. So if I don't set up the note, whoops, but how I'm going to set it up, remember, you're going to push enough air on that D until the note cracks. It's a lot of air, right? Here's the thing. This is another thing I see a lot when I'm trying to coach this. You want to push enough air, or push the air until the note cracks. Problem is, if I demonstrate it for you, you're listening for that sound. If I play it for you like this, here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna take that long and you're gonna use your air. You're gonna use your lips. You're gonna try to manipulate it. So I made it crack. Did I use my air? No. Did I get louder? No. No cheating here, guys. Do not move anything. All I want you to do is blow harder and harder and harder and harder until the note cracks. That's it. No cheating. Lips do not move. It's pretty far, right? So because D is a really stable note, you're not going to have to push that hard. So all I did was D, and it just came right out, right? So I'm really over exaggerating this. When we have it in the shape of the line, so yes, that's an ascending line, but that's because I'm going to the D, and the D has to push off to the A. So it would sound funny if I went, right? So then ascending line, I told you to decrescendo. I know it's a little backwards. So it's one of those instances where it's not always when you want to do that. So in this case, your ascending line is going to get louder, but the D is where you really need to push your air. So if we're going to practice this is how you practice it. Until you feel really comfortable, like that D is going to either go sharp or it's going to crack. And then I held it until I felt that way. Okay, so now I'm going to take it in time. And if I use my air, you'll notice I didn't move anything here. And if I'm still using my air the way that I just practiced and not cheating by making my lips do weird things, then you're going to be using your air the way that you need to. So we go back to the, I'm going to show you now something from Mozart's Concerto in D. Enough has been said about G. Nobody talks about D and C, and I think they're a lot of fun. So here's the Mozart Concerto in D, right? Okay, so you see these right here. We've got these 2 octave jumps. Mozart loves to do these 2 and 3 octave jumps. They're fun. They are so much fun. However, if you're not really sure about doing the phrasing where you go low to high, you're going to look at this and go, oh no, I can't. I'm trying to do it wrong. So it's, so if you wait, that's what happens. If you wait to put the air on the top note, you're too late. So we've got an F sharp, A, D, A. All it is a displaced arpeggio. That third note, I'm making it up. All he did was stick it up another octave. So yes, I am moving my lips, but the point is, what you need to do is you got to set up your air on the note before. So that's an A to a D, an A to a C, and C sharp, an A to a D, an A to a C sharp. So how do we practice this? And see, I'm already getting confused because, like I said, you can take this and break it down into its smallest part. So let me break it down a little bit more. Ordinarily, you would decrescendo, but because we have this note has got to lead to this note, you're going to crescendo. That note will be soft. This note is crescendoing down. Crescendo, soft, soft, crescendo, soft, soft. So what you need to do is break it down into about 4 or 5 notes, no more, okay? Etc. So that way, so you can do actually both of these things where you crescendo down, so you do both, crescendo down, decrescendo up, but then we've got that setup note, it kind of turns things. So now you're gonna do that, and then the second time you're gonna set up your high note. So he does this like with his running passage right here. All this stuff right here. We've got decrescendo, crescendo, decrescendo, crescendo, decrescendo, crescendo, decrescendo, etc. So you're going down and up, down. See how the small, when I say down and up, I just mean literally the space between 2 notes. Is it lower or higher? Now we're going higher, now we're going lower. So when you go lower, you get louder. When you go higher, you get softer. So again, take it out of time. Take it, so you're exaggerating everything. And I wouldn't do the whole thing. Focus on a section at a time. Here's something else that I'm going to throw in as a bonus here. Music is barred incorrectly. This is not written right. And I don't mean Mozart wrote it wrong. It's just the way that music is written. Move your bar line. So instead of, and I mean this bar line. So we've got 1, E, and A. This note should belong over there. So this is really your first note. Dee, 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 dee. When you practice it that way, it's going to make a whole lot more sense. So put in your slashes and make up the articulation. That's not what you're working on at this point. Pick one thing to work on at a time. You hear it? That's the way the music should be written. If we played it as written, we get. Now we're gonna add in that crescendo, decrescendo. So we've got crescendo down. That C sharp is the lowest note. It also happens to be the next to the last note, the third note in our new group of four. The new group of four, the third note, the next to the last note, however you want to say it, is always the most important note. In this case, it happens to also be the lowest note. So you want to set up the fourth note by crescendoing through that third note. You hear it? And then I looked away and I got lost. So when we get it back up to point, up to speed, and that's a little over exaggerated, but you can hear what I'm talking about, right? So the things to take away here are chunk your music down into small parts. Take a section at a time. And a section could be as little as 2 notes. When you have a running passage like this, you've got 4/16 notes, separate the bar lines, move them over one, and exaggerate the third note. Do not be afraid to exaggerate. In fact, do it. Take that third note or the lowest note. If you're crescendoing down, you want to have that bottom note be the loudest one. That's the most important thing, right? So when you're working on a passage that goes down, etc. So that's from the Kohler. So I've got this crescendo down and I'm exaggerating the loudest note. And then I'm going to take the time to exaggerate my decrescendo. Forget, it's supposed to be piano here. Ignore that. Like I said, focus on one thing. Take everything out of time. You're not worried about the rhythm. You're not worried about the articulation. You're not worried about the dynamics. All you're doing is focusing on crescendoing down and decrescendoing up. Can I make each note? You want to make it as exaggerated as possible. So every note in that little line, you want it one step louder till it gets the loudest note and one step softer as it gets to the softest note. I just did that 2 or 3 times. Can I make it better? I think so. Can I make it louder? Can I make it softer? Oh, yes. Okay, and then you're going to practice that several times until you feel like, yeah, I got that. Here's the good news. You don't have to do that for every single piece of music ever. Once you've practiced this enough, it's going to become built into you. Like a radio is built into a car, your phrasing will become built into you. So, for example, we've got this piece of music here by Kohler. Wrong key. So you hear it. I'm still taking it out of time just so you can understand and so you can hear. But if you look at my notes, this was back in high school, man. But if you look at my notes, like right here, right where it says echo, you see how I've got a little arrow right here? That's reminding me to set up this note, low to high, set up this note, low to high, set up this note, low to high, set up this note. You see it? You see the pattern? You see all my notes? I mean, I know they're kind of mushy, but if you get nothing out of this, crescendo down, decrescendo up, over exaggerate and use your air. Don't try to harness it, okay? So I hope that's been helpful and hit me up with any questions. Have a great day.